Welcome to these gentle, soothing stories for sleep. Tonight, we will not look up at the stars, but down into an inner cosmos, a universe that lies beneath the gentle rocking of the waves. We will begin a slow descent into the deep ocean, a journey into a world of profound silence, crushing pressure, and living light. A world that holds more mysteries than the surface of the moon. Before we begin our journey into this tranquil abyss, I would love to know where you are listening from tonight, or perhaps a gentle thought about how your day has been. Your presence here is deeply felt. Please feel free to support this channel with a like and subscribe, so that we may continue to explore these quiet wonders together. Thank you so much. Now, find a comfortable position. Let your body feel heavy and supported, and let your mind begin to drift as we prepare to leave the shore. Our journey begins in the familiar, with a feeling you have likely known, the sensation of standing at the edge of the sea, the fine mist of salt spray kissing your skin, and the taste of the ocean on the air. We think of this taste as simply salt, the residue of sodium chloride. But it is so much more than that, for the water of the ocean is a vast and patient collector of stories. Every drop holds a liquid memory of the earth itself, a solution containing nearly every element found on our planet, patiently dissolved over eons. For millions of years, rain has fallen on the continents, seeping into the soil, whispering over ancient rock formations, and carrying with it the tiniest fragments of the land. These minerals, these elemental ghosts of mountains and plains, are carried by rivers on their inexorable journey back to the sea, where they accumulate, creating a chemical composition of incredible complexity. The ocean is, in a sense, a liquid archive of the world, its salinity a testament to the slow, persistent erosion of time, a flavor that speaks of ages past and the enduring connection between the solid earth and its fluid heart. It is a comforting thought that this immense body of water is not separate from the world we know, but is instead its patient, listening counterpart, holding within its depths a diluted essence of everything that has ever stood under the sun. It is a grand, planetary circulation of memory, and as you breathe in, imagine you can feel that ancient connection, that taste of distant mountains and forgotten landscapes carried on the gentle sea breeze, lulling your senses into a state of peaceful surrender. And as we gaze out upon this vast expanse, the first thing we notice, the most defining characteristic of our planet from a distance, is its profound and captivating color. We call our world the blue planet, and the ocean is the reason for this name, yet its blueness is a beautiful illusion, a trick of the light, and a story of physics that is both simple and deeply poetic. It is natural to assume that the ocean is blue because it reflects the blue of the sky, a mirror to the heavens, and while this does contribute to the color on its surface, the true reason lies deeper within the water itself. When sunlight, which is a composite of all the colors of the rainbow, streams down from the atmosphere and penetrates the surface of the water, it begins a journey of transformation. The water molecules have a particular fondness for the longer wavelengths of light, the reds, the oranges, and the yellows. They absorb this warm end of the spectrum with great efficiency, consuming its energy within the first few meters of depth. The shorter wavelengths, however, the blues and the violets, are not so easily captured. They penetrate deeper, and as they travel, they are scattered by the water molecules, bounced around from one to another until many of them are redirected back upwards, emerging from the surface to meet our eyes. So the blue that we see is not a color that the ocean is, but rather the color that it lets go of. It is the light that it chooses to return to the world, the only part of the sun's brilliant spectrum that it does not keep for itself. There is a gentle philosophy in this process, a lesson in subtraction. The profound blue of the deep is born from what is given away, a color defined by absence, the cool, tranquil hue that remains when all the fiery energy of the sun has been absorbed and tamed by the water. It is the color of depth, the promise of a world beneath that is cooler, calmer, and far more mysterious than the bright, sun-drenched surface we are now preparing to leave behind. This sunlit upper layer of the ocean, where the beautiful dance of light and water takes place, is known to science as the photic zone, from the Greek word photos, meaning light. It extends downwards for about 200 meters, or 656 feet, a depth that marks the limit of the sun's meaningful influence. This is the ocean's vibrant, breathing skin, a luminous ceiling to the vast world below. Within this relatively thin layer, all of the magic of photosynthesis occurs. Countless trillions of microscopic organisms, known as phytoplankton, drift like dust motes in the sunbeams, using the sun's energy to convert carbon dioxide into organic matter and, crucially, into the very oxygen that we breathe. In fact, it is estimated that these tiny, invisible forests of the sea produce more than half of the oxygen in our planet's atmosphere. They are the true foundation of life, not just in the ocean, but for the entire world. All the great whales, the teeming schools of fish, the intricate coral reefs, all owe their existence to this primary layer of life, this gentle conversion of light into substance. Visualize it now, as we begin our descent, as a shimmering, turquoise canopy above us. It is a world of warmth and dazzling light, a place of immense energy and activity. But it is also a boundary. It is the last bastion of the familiar, the final point of contact with the world of the sun. As we drift deeper, the brilliant blues will begin to fade, the light will grow dimmer, and we will cross a threshold into a realm that operates by an entirely different set of rules. We are leaving the world of sight and entering a world of other senses, a world defined not by what can be seen, but by what can be felt. The light from above softens now, its brilliant rays transforming into a diffuse, dusky twilight. We are sinking past the great engine of life, leaving the warmth of the photic zone and its sun-fed gardens behind. And as we do, the world transitions from a place of vibrant color to one of deep, monochromatic peace, a gentle surrender to the coming dark. As we continue to drift downwards, leaving the last vestiges of the sun's familiar light behind, a new sensation begins to make itself known. A feeling that is less a sight or a sound, and more a deep, pervasive presence. It is the feeling of weight, the gentle but insistent pressure of the water column above us, an embrace that grows steadily firmer with every meter we descend. This is hydrostatic pressure, the fundamental physical reality of the deep ocean. On the surface, we live our lives under the constant pressure of the atmosphere, a weight of air so ubiquitous that we fail to notice it, known as one atmosphere. But water is far denser than air, far heavier, and its weight accumulates with astonishing speed. For every 10 meters, or roughly 33 feet, that we travel deeper into the ocean, the pressure increases by 1 full atmosphere. At 100 meters, the pressure is 10 times that of the surface. At 1,000 meters, it is 100 times greater. In the deepest trenches, more than 10,000 meters down, the pressure is over 1,100 times what we experience on land, a force equivalent to the weight of 50 jumbo jets stacked upon a single human body. To visualize this immense force, imagine it not as a crushing weight from above, but as a uniform, relentless squeeze from all directions, a force that would instantly pulverize any air-filled object brought down from the surface. Yet, miraculously, life endures here. It does not fight this pressure. It yields to it, incorporates it, and is shaped by it. The creatures of the deep are made of water themselves, with no internal air spaces to compress. The pressure inside their bodies is perfectly balanced with the pressure outside, creating a state of equilibrium. The pressure is not a burden to them. It is simply the medium in which they exist, a constant and unchanging parameter of their world, like the air we breathe. It is a profound sculptor, a force that has molded life into forms of incredible resilience and strange beauty, stripping away all that is unnecessary and leaving only that which can withstand the deep, silent, and powerful embrace of the abyss. With the fading of the light, the world of the deep ocean transitions its primary mode of perception from sight to sound. In the darkness, hearing becomes the most important sense, and the ocean is a realm uniquely suited for it, a medium where sound behaves in ways that are both alien and magnificent to us air-dwellers. Sound is simply a vibration, a pressure wave that travels through a medium by causing its molecules to jostle against one another. Because the molecules in water are packed much more closely together than the molecules in air, these vibrations are transmitted with incredible efficiency. As a result, sound travels through water at a speed of approximately 1,500 meters per second, which is nearly 5 times faster than its speed in air. This means that the soundscape of the ocean is fundamentally different from our own. Distances are harder to judge, and sounds arrive with a clarity and immediacy that is difficult for us to comprehend. It is a world of echoes and reverberations, a realm where a single call can resonate across vast unseen landscapes. The very physics of the medium creates a world built for communication, for connection, across the immense and empty darkness. Imagine a world where your voice could carry not for a few hundred feet, but for miles, arriving almost instantly, a clear and present signal in the otherwise featureless void. This is the reality for the creatures of the deep, a world where the primary way of mapping the environment, of finding a mate, of avoiding a predator, is through the careful interpretation of sound waves traveling through the dark, a language of vibrations in a liquid world. This remarkable property of sound in water is further enhanced by a fascinating phenomenon, a special corridor hidden within the ocean's depths, known as the SOFAR channel, which stands for sound fixing and ranging. This is a unique layer in the water column where the speed of sound reaches its absolute minimum, creating a sort of highway for acoustic waves. The speed of sound in the ocean is not constant. It is affected by 3 key factors: temperature, salinity, and pressure. In the warmer upper layers, sound travels relatively fast. As you descend, the water gets colder, and the speed of sound decreases. But as you continue even deeper, the effect of increasing pressure begins to take over, and this immense pressure starts to compress the water molecules, causing the speed of sound to increase once again. The result of these opposing forces is a distinct layer, typically found at a depth of around 1,000 meters, where the combination of cold temperature and moderate pressure makes the speed of sound slowest. Sound waves that enter this channel from above or below are refracted back into it, trapped as if between 2 invisible, ever-shifting walls. They cannot easily escape to the surface or be absorbed by the seafloor. Instead, they propagate horizontally for astonishing distances, losing very little of their energy along the way. This deep sound channel acts as the ocean's own natural fiber optic cable, an acoustic waveguide that can carry low-frequency sounds across entire ocean basins. It is an invisible architecture within the sea, a hidden feature of physics that has been instrumental in both human exploration and the lives of the ocean's greatest communicators. And it is within this ethereal channel of sound that one of the most haunting and beautiful symphonies on our planet takes place. The great baleen whales, such as the fin whale and the blue whale, have evolved to take perfect advantage of the SOFAR channel's unique properties. They produce powerful, low-frequency calls, songs that are pitched at precisely the right frequency to enter this acoustic corridor and travel across the globe. A blue whale singing off the coast of California can, in theory, be heard by another whale thousands of miles away in the waters of Japan or Alaska. These are not simple signals. They are complex, patterned songs that can last for hours, rising and falling in deep, resonant tones that are felt as much as they are heard. For decades, these mysterious sounds, recorded on sensitive underwater microphones called hydrophones, baffled naval officers and scientists, who sometimes mistook them for unknown geological activity or foreign submarines. We now understand them to be the long-distance conversations of the largest animals that have ever lived, their voices carrying across the vast, dark solitude of the deep. It is a humbling and profoundly moving thought that as we go about our busy, sunlit lives, the deep, dark ocean beneath us is constantly crisscrossed by these ancient, lonely songs. It is a network of communication on a planetary scale, a silent, global concert played out in a theatre of immense pressure and absolute darkness. The fading light gives way not to silence, but to a world filled with a language we are only just beginning to understand, a language of deep vibrations echoing through the very heart of the sea. The last of the whale's song fades into a deep and resonant quiet, a vibration that hangs in the water long after the sound has passed, and we continue our gentle fall into a world now truly untethered from the sun. We are entering a realm of perpetual twilight, a soft and dusky space known as the Mesopelagic Zone, a name derived from Greek meaning Middle Sea. It stretches from the lower limit of the sunlit world at 200 meters down to about 1,000 meters, the point where the darkness becomes absolute. Here, the pressure continues to build, and the temperature drops to a steady, chilling cold. The light is faint, a ghostly sapphire blue glow that is the sun's final, fading whisper. It is not enough light for photosynthesis, not enough to power the great planktonic gardens that flourish above. This is a critical threshold, for it marks the beginning of a world that must survive not on what it can create, but on what it receives from a world it can no longer see. Life in the Twilight Zone is a patient, waiting game, an existence lived out in the shadows and silhouettes. It is a world of immense subtlety, a transitional space between the vibrant, breathing surface and the crushing, alien blackness of the true deep. Imagine yourself floating in this endless dusk, where the only sense of direction comes from the faint ethereal glow, far, far above, a constant reminder of a warm, bright world that is now forever out of reach. It is a profoundly peaceful place, a realm of deep calm and suspended animation, where time itself seems to slow down, measured only by the steady descent of particles from above. In this world without sunlight, there are no plants to form the base of the food chain, so all life here is sustained by a constant, gentle, and miraculous providence from the world above. This sustenance comes in the form of what is poetically and aptly named marine snow. It is not frozen water, but a continuous, slow-motion blizzard of organic detritus that drifts down from the productive photic zone. This snow is a collection of everything: the microscopic shells of dead phytoplankton and zooplankton, the discarded mucus housings of tiny creatures, fecal pellets, dust, and other fine particles that have clumped together on their long journey downwards. As these aggregates sink, they are colonized by bacteria, growing larger and heavier, falling like silent snowflakes through the water column. This gentle, unending shower is the lifeblood of the deep ocean, the primary source of food and energy for the vast ecosystems that thrive in the darkness. Each flake is a tiny parcel of sunlight, captured by a plant in the world above, and now transported on a weeks-long journey into the abyss. Picture this silent, luminous snowfall, not against a grey winter sky, but in a world of deep blue-black. Billions upon billions of tiny particles drift past, a slow, swirling galaxy of nourishment, sustaining a world of strange and beautiful creatures who have adapted to wait patiently for this manna from a distant, sunlit heaven. It is the most profound form of recycling, a physical connection that binds the very top of the ocean to its very bottom, ensuring that no energy is ever truly lost, only transformed and passed down into the quiet, waiting dark. While many creatures in the Twilight Zone are content to wait for the marine snow to fall, there are countless others that take a more active approach to their survival, participating in a daily rhythm of immense and breathtaking scale. This is the ideal vertical migration, and it is, by the sheer biomass of creatures involved, the largest migration on our entire planet. Yet it happens every single day, largely unseen by human eyes. As the sun sets on the surface world, a signal travels down into the deep. Trillions upon trillions of organisms, tiny crustaceans like copepods and krill, gelatinous siphonophores, squid, and countless species of small fish begin a collective, synchronized ascent. They travel hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of meters upwards from the relative safety of the dark, mesopelagic zone into the food-rich waters of the photic zone. Here, under the protective cover of night, they feed voraciously on the phytoplankton that bloom during the day. Then, as dawn approaches, a silent alarm sounds once more, and this great living cloud begins its journey back down, retreating into the deep, dark water to hide from the visual predators that hunt in the daylight hours. This daily, rhythmic pulse is like the slow, deep breathing of the ocean itself. It is a colossal transfer of energy and nutrients, actively carrying the richness of the surface down into the depths far more efficiently than marine snow alone. This constant vertical movement is a vital planetary pump, playing a crucial role in the global carbon cycle by sequestering carbon in the deep ocean. It is a silent, perfectly choreographed ballet on a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend, a testament to the intricate, and interconnected rhythms that govern life in the sea. And as we drift here, in this world of falling snow and rising tides of life, the last of the sun's photons finally flicker and die out. We have reached a depth where the darkness should be total, a void of absolute black. But it is not, for it is here, in the twilight zone, that a new kind of light begins to reveal itself, a light that is not born of a distant star, but is generated by life itself. This is the magic of bioluminescence, the production of cold light by living organisms. Many of the creatures in the mesopelagic zone have evolved a remarkable form of camouflage using this biological light, a technique known as counter-illumination. They possess specialized light-producing organs called photophores, arranged along their bellies and undersides. These organs produce a gentle, bluish light that they can control with incredible precision. By looking up towards the faint, distant glow of the surface, they are able to perfectly match the intensity and color of the downwelling light, effectively erasing their own silhouettes. To a predator looking up from below, they simply vanish, blending seamlessly into the ambient glow from above. This is not a passive act of blending in. It is an active, constant process of listening to the light and mirroring it, a deep and sensitive conversation with their environment. It is the very beginning of a new visual language, a language that will come to dominate the world below, a silent and luminous dialogue that replaces the lost voice of the sun. The darkness is not an emptiness to be feared, but a canvas waiting to be filled with the gentle, living sparks of the deep. This gentle, living light, sparked from the chemistry of life itself, offers a profound answer to the encroaching darkness, a turning inwards for illumination when the world outside offers none. This same idea of an inner world, of hidden forces and movements, can be expanded to the ocean as a whole. While we have been focused on the vertical journey downwards and the daily vertical migration of life, the deep ocean is also defined by immense and powerful horizontal movements, silent rivers that flow in the dark, connecting the entire planet in one vast, slow-moving system. We often imagine the deep sea as a place of stillness and stagnation, a cold, quiet tomb, but this could not be further from the truth. The abyss is in constant, dynamic motion, driven by a process known as thermohaline circulation. The name itself tells the story. Thermo refers to heat, and haline refers to salt. It is the subtle differences in the temperature and salinity of seawater, and the corresponding differences in density, that power the largest and slowest current system on Earth. Unlike the wind-whipped currents of the surface, these deep currents are ponderous and majestic, governed by the simple, inexorable law of gravity. Colder, saltier water is denser and heavier, and so it sinks, while warmer, fresher water is lighter, and so it rises. This fundamental principle of physics is the engine behind a single, globe-spanning current that is often called the global ocean conveyor belt. The journey of this great conveyor belt begins in the most inhospitable and remote places on our planet. The frigid polar regions of the North Atlantic, near Greenland, and the icy seas surrounding Antarctica. Here, in these places of extreme cold, the ocean's great engine is forged. Imagine the scene. Brutal, freezing winds sweep across the surface of the sea, stealing its warmth and causing the water temperature to plummet to near freezing. As the cold intensifies, sea ice begins to form. But when seawater freezes, it undergoes a peculiar transformation. The crystalline structure of ice cannot accommodate salt, so the salt is expelled and left behind in the remaining unfrozen water. This process dramatically increases the salinity, and therefore the density, of the water surrounding the newly formed ice. The result is a mass of water that is both incredibly cold and incredibly salty, making it among the densest water on the entire planet. Now, heavier than all the water beneath it, this polar water begins to sink. It is not a violent or rapid process, but a vast, slow-motion cascade, a waterfall of cold, dense water plunging from the surface into the abyss. This sinking, known as deep water formation, is the primary driving force of the entire global conveyor system, the initial push that sets a current in motion that will not see the light of day again for 1,000 years. Once this dense water reaches the deep ocean floor, it begins a slow but relentless journey, forming a colossal, invisible river that flows through the world's ocean basins. From its source in the North Atlantic, this deep current travels south, creeping along the abyssal plains, a silent, creeping flow far beneath the stormy waves of the surface. It moves with a quiet, ponderous grace, its speed often measured in mere centimeters per second, slower than the pace of a garden snail. Yet its scale is almost beyond comprehension. The volume of water it transports is more than 100 times greater than the flow of all the rivers on land combined. This river of the deep flows down the length of the Atlantic, past the equator, and around the southern tip of Africa. Here it enters the great circumpolar current of the Southern Ocean, where it mixes and continues its journey into the vast expanses of the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Over many centuries, as it travels through these warmer basins, it gradually mixes with other water masses, slowly warming and becoming less dense. Eventually, in scattered locations throughout the world's oceans, this ancient water will begin to rise, a process called upwelling, finally returning to the surface after its long, dark pilgrimage. Once at the surface, it joins the wind-driven currents, flowing back towards the polar regions, where it will once again be cooled, become salty and dense, and sink, beginning the epic cycle all over again. A single molecule of water completing this entire circuit takes, on average, about 1,000 years. This ancient, 1,000-year journey is not just an abstract curiosity of physics, it is the planet's circulatory system, a slow and steady heartbeat that regulates the climate of our entire world. As this conveyor belt moves, it transports an enormous amount of heat. Warm surface waters are drawn towards the poles, releasing heat into the atmosphere and moderating the climate of places like northern Europe. The cold, deep water, in turn, absorbs heat in the tropics. Without this constant redistribution of thermal energy, the equatorial regions would be significantly hotter, and the temperate zones would be far colder and less hospitable. But its importance does not end there. As the surface water sinks in the poles, it carries with it dissolved oxygen, replenishing the deep ocean with the gas necessary for life to survive in the abyss. And when that deep water finally upwells a millennium later, it brings with it an incredible wealth of nutrients, the accumulated remnants of all the marine snow that has dissolved on its journey. This nutrient-rich water, brought back to the sunlit photic zone, fuels explosive blooms of phytoplankton, which form the base of the most productive marine ecosystems on Earth. This silent, invisible river connects every part of the ocean, from top to bottom and from pole to pole, linking climate, chemistry, and life in a single, beautiful, and inextricably connected dance, a slow and patient rhythm that has shaped the world as we know it. This vast horizontal flow is the context for the world of the deep, and upon the floor of this great river, another, even slower story is being written. That great, slow river of the deep, the global ocean conveyor belt, flows over a world that is itself a testament to an even slower, more patient process. While the water above is in constant, ponderous motion, the seafloor beneath is a realm of accumulation, a quiet archive where the history of the world settles, flake by flake, over millions of years. Far from the chaotic influence of the land, the deep ocean floor is dominated by vast, flat, and extraordinarily smooth landscapes known as the abyssal plains. These plains are the largest single habitat on Earth, covering more than half of the planet's surface. They are worlds of immense pressure, near freezing temperatures, and absolute darkness, and for a long time we imagined them to be lifeless, barren deserts. But they are not empty. They are libraries. For eons, they have been the final resting place for the gentle, unending blizzard of marine snow, the destination for every microscopic shell and particle of organic matter that has completed the long journey down from the sunlit world above. Here, on the abyssal plains, this material accumulates in a fine, soft blanket of sediment, a layered manuscript that preserves the story of the ocean with unimaginable fidelity, a history written in the dust of life. This deep-sea sediment is composed primarily of what scientists call biogenic ooze, a soft, fine-grained mud that is made up of the skeletal remains of countless trillions of microscopic organisms. It is categorized into two principal types: based on the chemical composition of the tiny shells from which it is formed. The first, and most widespread, is calcareous ooze. This is a chalky, pale sediment formed from the skeletons of plankton that build their shells from calcium carbonate, the same mineral that makes up chalk, limestone, and marble. These organisms include the foraminifera, tiny single-celled amoeboids that construct intricate, chambered shells like microscopic snails, and the coccolithophores, single-celled algae that surround themselves with an armor of delicate, ornate calcite plates. When these creatures die in the waters above, their tiny mineral skeletons survive and begin their slow, patient descent, raining down upon the seafloor to create vast deposits of chalky ooze. The second type is siliceous ooze, which is made from the skeletons of organisms that use silica, the primary component of glass, to build their homes. These include the diatoms, a type of algae that encase themselves in exquisitely patterned glass boxes, and the radiolarians, protozoans that create complex spherical lattices of silica that are models of natural architectural beauty. In this slow, silent rain of chalk and glass, the ocean is meticulously recording its own biography. Each layer of ooze represents a different era, the types and abundance of shells within it serving as a precise fingerprint of the conditions in the surface waters thousands of years before, a library of ancient climates and forgotten ecosystems. Yet, there is a mysterious and powerful chemical boundary in the deep ocean that dictates precisely where these stories can be written. This threshold is known as the carbonate compensation depth, or the CCD. The chemistry of the ocean changes with depth. As you descend, the temperature drops, the pressure mounts, and crucially, the concentration of dissolved carbon dioxide increases. This combination of factors makes the very deepest ocean water slightly more acidic. This mild acidity has a profound effect on calcium carbonate, the chalky material of calcareous ooze, causing it to dissolve. The carbonate compensation depth is the specific depth, typically around 4,500 meters or 15,000 feet, at which the rate of dissolution becomes so rapid that it perfectly matches the rate at which the chalky shells are raining down from above. Below this line, any calcium carbonate particle that sinks will dissolve into the water before it ever has a chance to reach the bottom. It simply vanishes, its physical form erased, and its substance returned to the ocean's chemical solution. This creates a kind of snow line on the ocean floor for chalk. The abyssal plains that lie above the CCD are blanketed in pale, white calcareous ooze, while the deeper plains and trenches below this depth are covered instead by the more chemically resistant siliceous oozes and fine, reddish-brown abyssal clays. It is a stark and invisible line of demarcation, a chemical rule that sorts the remnants of life, decreeing which memories will be preserved in the sediment and which will be dissolved back into the deep, breathing heart of the sea. The most humbling aspect of this entire process is its almost inconceivable timescale. The accumulation of this biogenic ooze on the deep seafloor is one of the slowest continuous processes on our planet. The rate of sedimentation is often measured in just a few centimeters per millennium. To build up a single meter of this soft, deep-sea mud can take 50,000 years or more. A human lifetime would leave a layer thinner than a sheet of paper. This incredibly slow and undisturbed burial means that the sediment preserves a high-resolution, perfectly ordered record of Earth's history. By drilling long cores deep into the ooze of the abyssal plains, scientists can travel back in time. They can read these layers like the rings of a tree, analyzing the chemistry of the tiny shells to reconstruct past ocean temperatures, the extent of polar ice sheets, and the composition of the ancient atmosphere with remarkable precision. The deep ocean floor is the planet's most patient and meticulous historian. It forgets nothing. In its silent, layered embrace, it holds the secrets of ice ages and ancient warming periods, of planetary breaths that inhale and exhale over hundreds of thousands of years. It is a profound and humbling thought that beneath the dark, dynamic waters lies a static and silent library, holding the complete, unabridged memory of our world, a story written in the ghosts of innumerable tiny lives. From the silent, layered archive of the seafloor, we now lift our awareness back into the water column just above, into the pitch-black realm of the midnight zone. Here, the world is not static and recording. It is alive, dynamic, and filled with a light that comes not from the sun, but from within. We have left the last echoes of sunlight far behind, and are now in a world of absolute, unending darkness. A world that life has chosen to illuminate for itself. This phenomenon of bioluminescence is one of the deep ocean's most defining and magical features. It is the result of a beautifully efficient chemical reaction, a process that has been refined by evolution over hundreds of millions of years. Inside a living organism, a light-emitting molecule, generically called a luciferin, is combined with an enzyme known as a luciferase. In the presence of oxygen, the enzyme catalyzes a reaction that excites the luciferin molecule, causing it to release its extra energy in the form of a photon, a single, pure particle of light. What makes this process so remarkable is its efficiency. Unlike an incandescent light bulb, which wastes more than 90% of its energy as heat, bioluminescence is a form of cold light. Nearly 100% of the chemical energy put into the reaction is converted directly into visible light, with almost no heat produced. It is the most efficient form of light production known to science, a perfect solution evolved for an environment where energy is precious and must never be wasted. What is perhaps most astonishing is just how common this living light is. In the sunlit world, bioluminescence is a rarity, a special treat seen in fireflies on a summer evening, or a sparkling algal bloom in the waves. But in the deep ocean, it is the rule, not the exception. Scientists estimate that as many as 90% of all the species living in the depths below 1,000 meters have the ability to produce their own light. The eternal night of the abyss is, paradoxically, a world filled with light. The darkness is not an empty void, but a vast, black canvas upon which an endless and silent conversation of light is constantly taking place. This biological light is used for a stunning variety of purposes, a complex language with a rich vocabulary of flashes, glows, and shimmering patterns. For some, like the famous deep-sea anglerfish, it is a tool for hunting. She dangles a fleshy, luminous lure from her forehead, a tiny, glowing beacon in the dark that attracts smaller, curious fish directly towards her waiting, cavernous mouth. For others, light is the language of love. In the immense, featureless dark, different species of fish, squid, and crustaceans use unique patterns and rhythms of flashes to recognize their own kind and signal their readiness to mate, a secret Morse code that cuts through the darkness. Light is also a powerful tool for defense. A small shrimp, when caught by a predator, might spew a cloud of luminous liquid, dazzling and confusing its attacker like a biological flashbang, allowing it to escape. Another common strategy is the burglar alarm, where a creature, once bitten, will unleash a brilliant flash of light. The goal is not to scare off its attacker, but to illuminate it, making it visible to even larger predators nearby, essentially calling for help by turning its enemy into a glowing target. In this world where light is created with such precious metabolic energy, evolution has ensured that the light produced is perfectly tuned to its environment. The overwhelming majority of bioluminescence in the deep sea is of a blue-green color, and the reason for this goes back to the fundamental physics of how light behaves in water. As we learned in the sunlit zone, water is very effective at absorbing the longer wavelengths of light, like reds and yellows, but it allows the shorter wavelengths of blue and green to travel much farther. The creatures of the deep have evolved to produce light in precisely this blue-green window of the spectrum, because it is the most efficient color to be seen from a distance. To produce red light, for example, would be an extraordinary waste of energy, as it would be absorbed by the surrounding water within just a few feet, becoming invisible. The blue light they create, however, can be seen from tens of meters away, making it the ideal color for communication and detection in this liquid medium. It is a stunning example of convergent evolution, where countless unrelated species have all arrived at the same perfect, energy-efficient solution to the problem of seeing and being seen in the dark. There is, of course, a cunning exception that proves the rule: the dragonfish known as the stoplight loosejaw. This remarkable predator has evolved the unique ability to produce red light from a special organ beneath its eye. Because virtually no other deep-sea creature can see red light, the loosejaw has its own private, invisible searchlight, a secret sniper scope that it can use to illuminate its unsuspecting, red-blind prey without giving away its own position. Imagine yourself floating now, suspended in this midnight world. The darkness is not empty. It is a living cosmos. All around you is a silent, constant fireworks display. A sudden, brilliant blue flash from a startled shrimp. The slow, rhythmic pulse of a far-off jellyfish, its bell glowing with an ethereal green light. A school of lanternfish passes by, their sides adorned with rows of glowing photophores like the lit windows of a passenger train in the night. A fragile siphonophore drifts past, a chain of luminous, pulsating bells hundreds of feet long. This is the true nature of the deep, dark ocean. It is not a place of absence, but a place where life has swallowed the light and made it its own. The abyss is a universe of biological stars, a dynamic and ever-shifting galaxy of living light, a silent and beautiful symphony played out in a theatre of absolute blackness, a testament to the boundless creativity of life in the face of the ultimate challenge. The dark, star-dusted world of bioluminescence reveals a profound truth about life in the abyss, that in the absence of an external sun, life will create its own. It is a world that has adapted to the darkness by swallowing the light and making it an intrinsic part of its own being. But our journey now takes us to a place that represents an even more radical and fundamental departure from the world we know, a discovery that forced us to rewrite the very definition of life itself. We are descending to the volcanic seams of the planet, to the places where the Earth's crust is thin and its fiery heart beats close to the surface. Here, on the deep ocean floor, we find not a world that has simply adapted to the absence of the sun, but one that is powered by an entirely different star altogether, the molten core of our own planet. In the year 1977, scientists exploring the Galapagos Rift in a deep-sea submersible named Alvin were anticipating a journey over a cold, barren, and monotonous seafloor. Instead, their headlamps illuminated a scene of almost hallucinatory wonder. Clustered around fissures in the volcanic rock were dense, vibrant oases of life, teeming with giant white tube worms topped with blood-red plumes, ghostly white crabs, and shimmering fields of mussels, all thriving in the crushing pressure and total darkness. Billowing from the fissures was a strange, shimmering fluid, superheated water, gushing from the planet's interior. In that moment, our entire understanding of biology was irrevocably changed. For the first time, we had discovered an ecosystem that was not just surviving without sunlight, but was thriving, powered by a source of energy that was completely alien to us. The engine driving these impossible deep-sea gardens is a process not of photosynthesis, but of chemosynthesis. It is a form of biological alchemy, a way of creating life not from light, but from the raw, chemical energy of the Earth. The process begins when cold, dense seawater seeps down through cracks and fissures in the ocean floor, sometimes for miles into the planet's crust. As it nears the magma chambers that lie beneath, the water is heated to extreme temperatures, often exceeding 400 degrees Celsius or 750 degrees Fahrenheit. This superheated, pressurized fluid becomes a powerful solvent, leaching minerals and chemicals from the surrounding volcanic rock. It becomes a toxic, acidic brew, rich in compounds like hydrogen sulfide, the very same chemical that gives rotten eggs their distinctive and unpleasant smell. This hot, mineral-laden water, now more buoyant than the cold water around it, is then forced back up to the seafloor, erupting through openings we now call hydrothermal vents. At the very base of the food web, in this seemingly lethal environment, are legions of specialized bacteria and archaea. Instead of using chlorophyll to capture sunlight, these incredible microbes have evolved the ability to harness the chemical energy stored within the hydrogen sulfide. They effectively breathe this poisonous compound, breaking its chemical bonds and capturing the energy released to convert carbon dioxide into organic matter, the fundamental building blocks of life. They are creating nourishment from poison, spinning life out of the planet's toxic, geothermal breath. This miraculous act of chemical creation supports a menagerie of creatures that are as strange and wonderful as any science fiction writer could imagine. The undisputed kings of this realm are the giant tube worms, with the scientific name Riftia pachyptila. These surreal organisms grow in dense thickets around the vents, reaching lengths of over 2.4 meters, or 8 feet. They have no mouth, no stomach, and no digestive tract of any kind. They do not eat. Their survival is entirely dependent on a perfect, intimate partnership, a form of symbiosis. With the chemosynthetic bacteria, the worm's tall, white, chitinous tube serves as a protective house, while its bright red plume, which looks like a surreal flower, acts as a sophisticated lung. This plume is filled with a unique form of hemoglobin that is incredibly efficient at absorbing both oxygen from the ambient seawater and, crucially, the hydrogen sulfide from the vent fluid. It then transports these two vital ingredients down to a special organ in its body called the trophosome, which is packed with trillions of symbiotic bacteria. Inside the worm's body, safe and sound, the bacteria are given everything they need to perform their chemosynthetic magic. They generate an abundance of sugars and other organic compounds, producing so much food that they can easily nourish themselves and their giant host. The worm is, in essence, a living factory, a self-contained ecosystem that has outsourced the entire business of feeding to its tiny microbial partners. The existence of life at these vents is a testament to nature's incredible tenacity, for it thrives in an environment of brutal extremes that would be instantly fatal to nearly any form of surface life. The hydrostatic pressure is immense, more than 250 times that of the surface. The darkness is absolute and eternal, and the temperature gradients are the most extreme on Earth, with the ambient, near-freezing 2 degrees Celsius seawater existing just inches away from vent fluid that is hot enough to melt lead. And yet, here, life has found a way. The discovery of these chemosynthetic ecosystems was a watershed moment in science, proving that the sun is not the only source of life-giving energy on a planet. It showed us that life is a deeply creative and opportunistic force, a chemical imperative that can arise and flourish in the most unlikely of places. It fundamentally broadened our perspective on where we might find life elsewhere in the universe, suggesting that the dark, liquid oceans hidden beneath the icy shells of moons like Jupiter's Europa or Saturn's Enceladus, warmed by their own geothermal cores, could very well be the most promising places to search for extraterrestrial biology. The fires of the Earth's heart, it turns out, can kindle a life just as vibrant and complex as that sparked by the fires of the sun. From the intense, concentrated, and fiery oases of the hydrothermal vents, where life is born from the planet's geothermal heat, we now drift across the cold, silent plains of the abyss to discover a different kind of deep-sea sanctuary. This is an oasis, born not from the fire below, but from a great and final gift from the sunlit world far above. It is a story of how the death of one of the ocean's most majestic creatures can create a legacy of life that lasts for a century. This phenomenon is known as a whale fall. When a great whale, such as a blue whale or a sperm whale, dies in the vastness of the open ocean, its immense body, weighing 50 tons or more, begins a slow, final descent to the seafloor. This arrival on the dark, barren abyssal plain is a monumental event. In an environment where the primary source of food is the slow, sparse drizzle of marine snow, the carcass of a whale is an almost unimaginable bounty. A sudden and massive infusion of concentrated organic matter. A single whale fall can introduce more nutrients to a small patch of the seafloor than it would otherwise receive in over 100 years. It is the ultimate act of recycling, the final chapter in the story of a magnificent, air-breathing, sun-powered giant, its body becoming the foundation for a new and unique ecosystem in the eternal night. The community that develops around a whale fall does not appear all at once, but unfolds in a series of distinct and predictable stages, a slow and fascinating ecological succession that can play out over the course of a century. The first to arrive, drawn from miles around by the scent of the feast, are the mobile scavengers. This is the first stage, and it is a frenzy of consumption. Large, deep-sea sleeper sharks with their powerful jaws, ghostly white hagfish that can tie themselves in knots to gain leverage, and giant, armor-plated isopods, the size of dinner plates, all congregate to strip the carcass of its soft tissue. This chaotic banquet can last for up to 2 years, until many tons of flesh have been removed, leaving behind little more than the colossal skeleton. This marks the beginning of the second stage, where a host of smaller enrichment opportunists move in. These are worms, small crustaceans, and mollusks that colonize not just the bones themselves, but also the surrounding sediment, which has been heavily enriched by the decaying organic matter. This stage lasts for several years, a quieter but no less busy community feasting on the leftovers. Finally, as the last of the easily accessible nutrients are consumed, the longest and most mysterious stage begins. The sulfur-philic, or sulfur-loving, stage. The massive bones of a whale are incredibly rich in oils and lipids. Deep within the bones, where there is no oxygen, anaerobic bacteria begin to break down these lipids, and in the process, they release hydrogen sulfide as a waste product. This chemical, the very same that fuels the hydrothermal vents, seeps out of the bones, attracting a final community of chemosynthetic bacteria. These microbes colonize the skeleton, in turn supporting a specialized ecosystem of mussels, clams, and the bizarre and fascinating zombie worms of the genus Ocedax, which secrete an acid to drill deep into the bone, digesting the fats within. The whale skeleton has become a self-sustaining, chemosynthetic reef, a monument that can support a vibrant and unique community for 50 to 100 years. From the rich but fleeting world of the whale fall, we drift now to an even more ancient and enduring form of life, the silent architects of the deep. In many parts of the abyss, the seafloor is home to vast and beautiful gardens of glass sponges. Known scientifically as the Haxactinellida, these creatures are otherworldly in their beauty, their bodies composed of intricate, latticed skeletons made of silica, the same fundamental material as glass. They look like delicate sculptures, like ornate vases or complex webs of spun glass fiber optics, and they are among the simplest and most ancient of all animal lineages. They are patient filter feeders, their entire existence dedicated to a single, simple task, gently pumping seawater through their porous bodies to sieve out the tiny particles of marine snow and bacteria that constitute their diet. While individual glass sponges can be found scattered across the seafloor, in certain regions with favorable currents, they grow together to form immense and breathtaking structures known as sponge reefs or gardens. These reefs, built up over thousands of years, can be several meters high and stretch for many square kilometers, creating a complex, three-dimensional habitat on the otherwise flat and featureless abyssal plains, much like a coral reef does in the shallow, sunlit waters. What makes these glass sponge gardens so truly awe-inspiring is their immense age. These sponges are masters of slow living, with incredibly low metabolic rates that allow them to survive in the nutrient-poor deep. This slow pace of life also grants them extraordinary longevity. Individual glass sponges are among the longest living animals on Earth, with some specimens estimated to be more than 10,000 years old, making them silent witnesses to the entire history of human civilization. The reefs they form are therefore ancient, living ecosystems that have grown, generation by generation, since the end of the last ice age. They are the old-growth forests of the deep, living cathedrals of glass that provide a crucial sanctuary for countless other deep-sea species. Brittle stars wrap their arms around the sponge stalks. Deep-sea shrimp and crabs seek refuge within their intricate structures, and a variety of fish use the reefs as nurseries for their young. They are a testament to a different strategy for life, one based not on speed or consumption, but on patience, persistence, and architectural elegance. They are a quiet reminder that even in the most stable and slow-moving environment on Earth, life finds a way not just to survive, but to build vast, beautiful, and enduring communities, filtering the silent darkness for millennia. We have witnessed the slow, patient artistry of the deep ocean, from the microscopic architects of the seafloor ooze to the ancient, living glass cathedrals of the sponge gardens. We have seen how a single, colossal whale fall can create a vibrant city of life that lasts for a century. These varied expressions of life reveal a world that operates on different scales of time and size than our own. This theme of scale finds its most dramatic and mysterious expression in a phenomenon that has puzzled and fascinated scientists for over a century, a biological paradox known as abyssal gigantism. In the deep, dark and nutrient-poor waters of the abyss, a place where you would expect life to be small and conservative, some creatures have evolved to become giants, growing to sizes that dwarf their relatives in the warm, bountiful, shallow waters. This is one of the deep sea's most counterintuitive secrets. That this world of perceived scarcity is, in fact, a realm of monsters, not in the frightening sense, but in the original Latin meaning of the word monstrum, a marvel, a wonder, an event that inspires awe. The reasons behind this strange propensity for gigantism are complex and not yet fully understood, but they are thought to be a beautiful and intricate consequence of the deep sea's unique environmental conditions. One of the key factors is the profound and unvarying cold. Low temperatures dramatically slow down all the processes of life, including metabolism, growth, and aging. A creature in the deep sea burns energy at a much lower rate than a similar creature in the tropics. This metabolic slowdown has a profound effect on their life history. While they grow very slowly, they also live for an exceptionally long time, with lifespans that can stretch into decades or even centuries. This extended lifespan gives them a much longer period in which to grow. Unlike many surface creatures that reach a maximum size and then stop growing, many deep-sea animals continue to grow, albeit slowly, for their entire lives. They also tend to reach sexual maturity much later, meaning they spend a larger proportion of their existence in a state of pure growth. In essence, the deep sea's cold, stable environment stretches out time itself, allowing these creatures the long and quiet decades needed to achieve their immense and majestic proportions. This principle is made beautifully real in the forms of the creatures themselves, serene and slow-moving titans that haunt the abyssal plains. Consider the giant isopod, Bathynomus giganteus. It looks for all the world like a common woodlouse or pillbug from a garden, but magnified to a colossal scale, reaching lengths of up to 50 centimeters or 20 inches. These armored scavengers move with a slow, deliberate grace across the seafloor, patiently searching for the sunken remains of fish or whale falls. Their slow metabolism is so efficient that they are capable of surviving for more than 5 years without a single meal, waiting in a state of semi-hibernation for the next unpredictable bounty to arrive. Or picture the Japanese spider crab, Macrochira caempheri, the largest known arthropod on the planet. With a leg span that can reach a staggering 3.7 meters, or 12 feet, this gentle giant picks its way delicately across the seabed on long, stilt-like legs, a silent, ancient sentinel of the deep. Perhaps most iconic of all is the creature that fueled myths of the kraken for centuries. The giant squid, Architeuthis dux. Living its life in the deep, dark water column, this elusive predator can reach lengths of up to 13 meters, or 43 feet. Its most striking feature is its eyes, the largest in the entire animal kingdom, reaching the size of dinner plates. These enormous, sensitive orbs were not evolved to see in the non-existent sunlight, but to capture the faintest, most distant glimmers of bioluminescence, the flash of a potential prey, or the glow of an approaching predator in the eternal night. These giants of the deep are not the terrifying monsters of sailors' tales. They are living monuments to the unique pace and pressure of their environment. Their gigantism is not a sign of aggression or ferocity, but rather a result of extreme patience, metabolic efficiency, and longevity. They are the embodiment of a life lived without hurry, a life where time is measured not in days or seasons, but in decades and centuries. Their colossal size is a physical manifestation of the deep sea's most fundamental characteristics: its coldness, its stability, and its immense, unhurried timescale. They are serene, slow-moving marvels that have achieved their grand scale simply by surrendering to the slow, quiet rhythm of the abyss. The very existence of their massive, complex bodies, however, poses a profound question. How can such intricate biological machines, with their delicate tissues and complex molecules, possibly function under the relentless, crushing pressure of the deep? The answer lies not in their size, but in the invisible world of their own chemistry. The image of a giant squid, its massive and gelatinous body moving with grace through the crushing darkness, is a marvel of biological engineering. Its existence begs a fundamental question that takes us from the grand scale of gigantism down to the infinitesimal scale of molecules. How can the delicate machinery of life, the proteins, the enzymes, the cell membranes withstand a hydrostatic pressure that can dent submarine hulls and pulverize solid objects? A pressure of hundreds or even 1,000 atmospheres exerts a relentless physical force, a uniform squeeze from all directions that seeks to compress and distort the very molecules that make life possible. For living things, the most acute vulnerability lies with their proteins. Proteins are the workhorses of the cell, long chains of amino acids that must fold themselves into incredibly specific, intricate, three-dimensional shapes to function. A protein's shape is everything. It is what allows it to be an enzyme that digests food, a muscle fiber that contracts, or a receptor that receives a signal. This shape is maintained by a delicate balance of weak chemical bonds. Immense pressure disrupts this balance, physically forcing water molecules into the tightly folded nooks and crannies of the protein, causing it to unravel and lose its shape, a process called denaturation. An unfolded protein is as useless as a key that has been melted down into a lump of metal. Similarly, the fluid, fatty membranes that enclose every living cell can be compressed by pressure until they become stiff, waxy, and impermeable, ceasing to function as the dynamic gateways they need to be. To survive this constant crushing force, the creatures of the deep have not evolved stronger shells or tougher skins, but have instead engineered a solution from the inside out, a beautiful and elegant defense at the molecular level. Their cells are filled with tiny organic molecules known as piezolites, a name derived from the Greek word piezin, which means to press. These are small, pressure-counteracting solutes whose sole purpose is to protect the delicate machinery of the cell from being squeezed into dysfunction. They are molecular guardians, tiny chemical shields that allow life's most fundamental processes to continue, uninterrupted, in an environment of overwhelming physical force. Over millions of years, deep-sea life has perfected a chemical cocktail that creates a sanctuary of stability within each and every one of its cells, allowing the grand dance of biochemistry to proceed as if the immense pressure of the outside world did not even exist. It is an invisible armor, a testament to the fact that the most profound adaptations are often the ones we cannot see. The most important and well-studied of these molecular protectors is a humble but powerful molecule called trimethylamine N-oxide, known more simply as TMAO. The way TMAO works is a masterpiece of subtle chemistry. It is a molecule that is exceptionally good at organizing the water molecules that surround it. In its presence, the normally chaotic jumble of liquid water becomes slightly more ordered, more structured, more watery than water itself. Inside a cell, this means that every protein is surrounded by a tightly bound, highly structured layer of water, courtesy of TMAO. This microscopic shield of organized water provides a powerful defense against the encroaching pressure. The pressure wants to force rogue water molecules into the protein's core, but the TMAO-stabilized layer on the outside effectively pushes back, creating a microscopic force field that maintains the protein's integrity, preventing it from unfolding. The higher the external pressure, the more TMAO an organism needs to accumulate in its tissues to counteract it. This is a direct and measurable relationship. The deeper a fish lives, the higher the concentration of TMAO in its cells. As a curious side note, this powerful adaptation is also responsible for the distinctive smell of marine fish. After a fish dies, bacteria begin to break down the TMAO into a related compound, trimethylamine, which is the chemical that produces the characteristic fishy odor. The smell of the sea, in a very real sense, is the smell of life's elegant chemical solution to the crushing pressure of the deep. A similar, equally elegant solution has been evolved to protect the precious fluidity of cell membranes. Under pressure, the straight, fatty acid tails of lipid molecules can be packed tightly together, causing the membrane to become rigid and lose its function. To counteract this, deep-sea organisms incorporate a higher proportion of unsaturated fats into their cell membranes. Unsaturated fats, like those found in olive oil, have kinks or bends in their molecular tails. These kinks act like built-in spacers, preventing the lipid molecules from packing too closely together, no matter how intense the pressure becomes. This simple structural tweak ensures that the membranes remain fluid and flexible, able to bend and allow other molecules to pass through, preserving their vital function as the gatekeepers of the cell. It is a profound and beautiful truth that the very survival of the majestic, colossal creatures of the abyss, the giant squids, and the ancient sleeper sharks, depends entirely on these invisible, subtle adaptations. Their grand and awe-inspiring forms are made possible only by the silent, tireless work of tiny molecules like TMAO, and the simple, elegant kink in the tail of a quiet testament to how the most monumental challenges in nature are often overcome by the most subtle and ingenious of chemical solutions. The subtle, invisible world of molecular chemistry, with its pressure-fighting piezolites and flexible fats, is what makes the grand spectacle of deep-sea life possible. It is a world of internal forces, of resilience, built from the inside out. Now, we turn our gaze outward again, from the internal chemistry of life to the colossal geological forces that shape the very container in which this life exists. We are moving from the organism to its home, the deep ocean floor itself. And far from being a simple, muddy, featureless basin, the seafloor is the most dramatic and dynamic landscape on our planet. A hidden world of towering mountain ranges, cavernous trenches, and active volcanoes, all sculpted by the slow, inexorable breathing of the Earth itself. This is the realm of plate tectonics, the grand theory that explains the movement of the continents and the very structure of our world. And it is here, in the deep ocean, hidden from our view, that the fundamental processes of this planetary engine are laid bare in their most raw and powerful forms. Stitching its way around the entire globe like the seam on a baseball is the single largest geological feature on Earth, the mid-ocean ridge system. This is a continuous chain of underwater mountains that runs for more than 65,000 kilometers, or 40,000 miles, through all the world's oceans. But these are not mountains formed in the way we usually imagine, by the crumpling and folding of the Earth's crust. They are volcanic mountains, formed by the crust being pulled apart. The mid-ocean ridges are the sites of seafloor spreading, the places where two of the planet's great tectonic plates are diverging, moving away from each other at a rate of a few centimeters per year. As the plates separate, a rift valley forms between them, and into this gap, molten rock, or magma, from the Earth's superheated mantle rises up. It erupts onto the seafloor as lava, which is instantly quenched by the cold, deep water, solidifying into a type of rock called basalt. This process is continuous, a planetary construction zone where new oceanic crust is perpetually being forged. The hydrothermal vents, with their plumes of superheated water and their strange chemosynthetic life, are a direct and spectacular consequence of this volcanic activity. The mid-ocean ridges are the creative furnaces of our world, the places where the very skin of our planet is constantly being renewed, a slow, silent, and fiery birth hidden beneath 2 miles of water. Of course, if new crust is constantly being created at the mid-ocean ridges, then old crust must be destroyed somewhere else. Otherwise, our planet would be constantly expanding. This other side of the geological life cycle occurs at what are known as subduction zones. After being born at a mid-ocean ridge, a section of oceanic crust will spend the next 1 to 200 million years slowly traveling across the ocean floor, carried along like a passenger on a colossal tectonic conveyor belt. As it travels, it cools, contracts, and becomes denser. Eventually, it will arrive at the edge of an ocean basin, where it will collide with the thick, buoyant crust of a continent. Being much heavier and denser, the old oceanic plate is forced to bend and plunge downwards, sinking back into the hot mantle from which it originally came. This process of one plate sliding beneath another is called subduction, and it is a force of immense geological power. This downward bending of the oceanic plate creates the deepest and most mysterious places on our planet, the great deep-sea trenches. The Mariana Trench in the Western Pacific is the most famous example, a crescent-shaped scar in the Earth's crust that plummets to a depth of nearly 11,000 meters, or almost 7 miles. The pressure here is over 1,100 times that of the surface, and the darkness is absolute. These trenches are not empty voids. They are the planet's great recycling centers, the places where the old, cold ocean floor completes its epic journey and is consumed, its materials melted down to one day rise again. Beyond these two grand and opposing forces of creation and destruction, the abyssal plains are dotted with other dramatic volcanic features that tell their own stories of the planet's fiery history. The seafloor is studded with hundreds of thousands of seamounts, which are individual underwater mountains, most of which are extinct or dormant volcanoes. These can rise for thousands of meters from the seafloor, creating vital, complex habitats that attract a high diversity of marine life. Among these seamounts, we also find a stranger, more ghostly feature: the guyot. A guyot is a seamount that has a distinctively flat top. These are the ancient remnants of volcanic islands that once rose high above the ocean's surface. While they were at the surface, the relentless action of the waves eroded their peaks, grinding them down to a flat plateau. Then, as the tectonic plate on which they sat moved them away from the volcanic hotspot that created them, they slowly sank or subsided, carrying their flat, wave-cut tops with them on a final journey down into the silent darkness of the abyss. The deep sea floor is thus a vast and varied museum of geological time, a hidden landscape of birth, death, and slow transformation, where the powerful, creative, and destructive forces of our planet are constantly at work, shaping a world of profound and silent majesty. The immense geological forces that build mountains and carve trenches on the seafloor also create other, even more surreal landscapes in the deep, features that seem to belong to another world entirely. Within the varied topography of the abyss, sheltered in basins and depressions, we can find one of the ocean's most bizarre and otherworldly secrets: brine pools. These are, in essence, lakes beneath the sea, distinct bodies of water that lie on the ocean floor with their own surfaces, their own shorelines, and their own unique and lethal chemistry, entirely separate from the vast ocean that surrounds and contains them. A deep-sea submersible exploring the seafloor can approach one of these pools and see its own lights reflecting off the lake's still, mirror-like surface. If the submersible disturbs the surface, ripples will spread across it, just as they would on a lake on land. The boundary is so clear and stable that these underwater vehicles can even land on the beaches that form their edges. To encounter a brine pool in the deep ocean is to feel as though you have stumbled upon a lost and alien sea, a self-contained world operating by its own set of physical rules, a place of strange and haunting beauty. The existence of these underwater lakes is the result of a geological process known as salt tectonics, a story that begins hundreds of millions of years ago. During past geological eras, such as the Jurassic period, vast, shallow seas in areas like the present-day Gulf of Mexico would periodically become cut off from the wider ocean. In the hot, arid climate, the water in these isolated seas evaporated, leaving behind immense, basin-wide layers of solid salt, sometimes thousands of meters thick. Over the subsequent millions of years, these colossal salt deposits were buried under a heavy blanket of sediment carried into the sea by rivers. Now, salt has a peculiar physical property. It is less dense than the compacted rock and sediment that comes to lie on top of it, and under immense pressure, it can flow, behaving like an extremely viscous fluid, a slow-motion glacier of solid rock salt. Squeezed by the weight of the thousands of meters of sediment above, this ancient, buoyant salt begins to push its way upwards, deforming the rock layers and sometimes forcing its way through faults and cracks all the way to the modern seafloor. When this deeply buried, ancient salt comes into contact with the seawater, it dissolves, creating a brine of incredible salinity, a fluid that can be anywhere from 3 to 8 times saltier than the normal ocean water. This extreme saltiness is the key to the formation of the lake itself. Because the brine is so saturated with dissolved salt, it is also incredibly dense, far heavier and less buoyant than the seawater above it. As this super salty water seeps from the seafloor, it does not mix with the ocean. Instead, governed by the simple force of gravity, it flows downwards, pooling in any available depression or basin on the seafloor, just as rainwater would pool in a hollow on the land. Here it settles, forming a stable, stratified layer with the less dense ocean water floating on top. But the strangeness of these pools does not end with their density. The brine is completely anoxic, meaning it contains absolutely no dissolved oxygen. Furthermore, it is often saturated with dissolved methane and toxic hydrogen sulfide that bubble up from deep within the sediments. For most marine life, these pools are deadly traps. Any unsuspecting fish, shrimp, or crab that swims or wanders across the invisible boundary and into the brine is immediately overcome by the toxic, oxygen-free conditions. The extreme salinity then pickles and preserves their bodies, and the shorelines of these lethal lakes are often eerily decorated with the perfectly preserved corpses of creatures that made a fatal mistake, a silent and macabre monument to the pool's unforgiving nature. And yet, where there is chemistry, there is often life. Despite their toxicity, these pools are not entirely barren. They are another of the deep sea's surprising oases of chemosynthesis. The anoxic brine itself is home to a thriving community of extremophile bacteria and archaea, microbes that are perfectly adapted to this toxic, oxygen-free world. The true hub of activity, however, is at the very edge of the pool, at the interface where the dense, toxic brine meets the cold, oxygenated seawater. Here, along the shoreline, vast and dense beds of mussels often grow, their shells clustered together in the thousands. These mussels have formed a symbiotic partnership with chemosynthetic bacteria that live in their gills. The mussels act as living conduits, positioning themselves to take in the methane and sulfides seeping from the brine with one part of their body, and the oxygen from the seawater with another, delivering these key ingredients to their microbial partners. The bacteria then work their chemical magic, producing enough food to nourish both themselves and their mussel hosts. These brine pools are truly alien worlds embedded within our own, pockets of a profoundly different kind of chemistry and life. They are a haunting reminder of the deep ocean's infinite capacity for surprise, its ability to hold countless separate and distinct worlds within its silent, dark immensity. The strange, still surfaces of the deep-sea brine pools are a stark reminder that the chemistry of the ocean is not uniform, that it can hold pockets of profoundly different and even hostile environments. The defining feature of these pools is their anoxia, their complete lack of life-giving oxygen. And this concept of an oxygen-starved world can be scaled up from a small, localized lake on the seafloor to vast, ocean basin-sized regions of the water column itself. These are the oxygen minimum zones, or OMZs, and they are among the largest and most challenging habitats on our planet. While the ocean's surface is constantly being infused with oxygen from the atmosphere and from the tireless work of photosynthetic phytoplankton, and the very deepest parts of the abyss are slowly but surely ventilated by the great oxygen-rich currents of the global conveyor belt, there exists a vast intermediate layer, a twilight world caught in between, where the supply of oxygen simply cannot keep up with the demand. Typically found at depths between 200 and 1,500 meters, these are immense swathes of the ocean, where oxygen levels fall so low that they are functionally anoxic, creating a barrier to most forms of life that depend on respiration as we know it. The formation of these immense, oxygen-poor zones is the result of a simple but powerful confluence of two factors: intense consumption and poor ventilation. As the constant, gentle blizzard of marine snow sinks from the productive sunlit world above, it must pass through this mid-water realm. Here, it is met by a staggering abundance of aerobic bacteria and other microbes that feast upon this sinking bounty. In the process of decomposing this organic matter, these microbes respire, consuming vast quantities of dissolved oxygen from the surrounding water. This layer of the ocean is, in effect, the great compost heap of the sea, a place of intense biological activity and decomposition that relentlessly strips the water of its oxygen. In a well-mixed part of the ocean, this would not be a problem, as currents would quickly replenish the oxygen that is used up. But the water within these oxygen minimum zones is often exceptionally old, sluggish, and stratified. It is poorly connected to the atmosphere above and the deep currents below, meaning that once the oxygen is consumed, it is not quickly replaced. The result is a profound and persistent oxygen deficit, an imbalance where consumption far outpaces supply. This creates a vast, suffocating world, a chemical barrier that most fish, squid, and other active animals cannot cross, their metabolisms unable to cope with the near-total absence of the gas that fuels their lives. And yet, these zones are not entirely dead. They are simply home to a different kind of life, a community of specialists that have evolved remarkable and beautiful adaptations to thrive in an environment that others find lethal. The undisputed master of this realm is a creature with a fearsome name, but a gentle nature. Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which translates from Latin as the vampire squid from hell. This small, gelatinous cephalopod is not a true squid, but the last surviving member of its own ancient evolutionary order. It spends its entire life drifting serenely within the heart of the oxygen minimum zone. To survive here, it has evolved a suite of incredible adaptations. First, it has the lowest mass-specific metabolic rate of any known cephalopod, meaning it requires extraordinarily little oxygen to power its body. Its lifestyle is one of supreme energy conservation. It does not actively hunt, but instead drifts passively, extending two long, sticky filaments to gently catch sinking particles of marine snow. Its very blood is also a marvel of biochemical engineering. It contains a copper-based respiratory pigment called hemocyanin that is exceptionally efficient at binding to and transporting the few, precious oxygen molecules that are available in the water, allowing the vampire squid to breathe where others would suffocate. By embracing this low-energy lifestyle, it has found a safe and permanent refuge, a world free from the more active predators that cannot tolerate these challenging chemical conditions. In a deeper, more philosophical sense, these oxygen minimum zones can be seen as living memories of our planet's distant past. For the first half of Earth's 4.5 billion year history, the oceans were almost entirely anoxic and rich in dissolved iron, a profoundly alien world to us today. It was only with the evolution of photosynthetic cyanobacteria, around 2.4 billion years ago, that the Great Oxidation Event began. This was the slow, planetary-scale transformation where these tiny microbes began to pump colossal quantities of oxygen into the seas and the atmosphere as a waste product of their metabolism. This event fundamentally and irrevocably changed the chemistry of our entire planet, paving the way for the evolution of oxygen-breathing, complex life, like ourselves. The oxygen minimum zones of today, with their suffocating, sulfide-rich waters, are like chemical ghosts of this ancient, primordial ocean. They are pockets of the past that persist into the present, a quiet and humbling reminder that the oxygen-rich world we consider normal is a relatively recent, and perhaps fragile, addition to our planet's long and turbulent history. The vampire squid, drifting peacefully in its low-oxygen sanctuary, is not just a master of its environment, it is a living relic, a creature perfectly in tune with the chemical echoes of a much more ancient Earth. The serene, drifting form of the vampire squid, a master of its low-oxygen world, is a powerful symbol of how life adapts to the most challenging chemical niches. But this visible, complex creature is merely a representative of a much deeper and more fundamental layer of life, an unseen world of microbes that truly governs the chemistry of the deep ocean. As we zoom in further, leaving the scale of animals behind, we enter a realm of such staggering numbers and diversity that it redefines our understanding of what it means to be alive. This is the microbial world, and its most numerous and influential residents are entities that many of us do not even think of as living at all. The viruses, a single drop of seawater is a teeming, invisible cosmos. A single litre can contain as many as 10 billion individual virus particles, and a mere teaspoon of the soft sediment on the abyssal floor can hold up to 1 billion. If you were to take all the viruses in the ocean and lay them end to end, they would form a chain that would stretch far beyond our galaxy, spanning a distance of more than 10 million light-years. In the ocean, these viruses are not primarily the agents of disease that we are familiar with on land. The vast majority of them, known as bacteriophages, exclusively infect and replicate within bacteria and other single-celled organisms, making them the most dominant and pervasive biological entities in the entire marine environment. These countless trillions of viruses are not simply passive bystanders. They are one of the most powerful engines of ecological change in the entire ocean, primarily through a process known as the viral shunt. Every single day, marine viruses are responsible for the death of approximately 20% of all the bacterial biomass in the ocean. They do this by infecting a bacterial cell, hijacking its machinery to create millions of new copies of themselves, and then bursting the cell open in a process called lysis. When the cell bursts, all of its rich, internal organic contents, the carbon, the nitrogen, the phosphorus that it had painstakingly collected, are released back into the water as dissolved organic matter. This sudden release of nutrients is a feast for other healthy bacteria in the vicinity. It effectively shunts these vital nutrients away from the larger food web, preventing them from sinking into the deep as part of a larger particle, and instead keeps them cycling rapidly and efficiently within the microbial loop at the very base of the ecosystem. Viruses, in this sense, act as the great recyclers of the ocean. They are not just agents of death, but agents of renewal, ensuring that the fundamental building blocks of life are kept in constant circulation, fueling the microbial engine that powers the entire marine world. They are the unseen gardeners of the abyss, constantly pruning the bacterial blooms and refertilizing the water with the very essence of life. Beyond the viruses, the deep ocean is a reservoir of an almost unimaginable diversity of microbes, primarily from the two great domains of single-celled life, the bacteria and the archaea. These are the true masters of the abyss, the organisms that have conquered every conceivable niche, from the superheated waters of hydrothermal vents to the near-freezing mud of the abyssal plains. Many of these microbes are extremophiles, organisms that thrive in conditions that we would consider lethal. There are the piezophiles, or pressure lovers, that have adapted not just to tolerate, but to require immense hydrostatic pressure for their cell membranes to function correctly. There are the psychrophiles, or cold lovers, which carry out their entire life cycles at temperatures near the freezing point of water. And of course, there are the chemoautotrophs, the chemical feeders that we have already met, which build their lives not on light, but on a diet of sulfur, methane, iron, or hydrogen. The domain of archaea, in particular, finds its greatest expression in these extreme environments. Though they look like bacteria under a microscope, these organisms are as different from bacteria on a genetic level as we are. They represent a completely separate and ancient branch of life, many of which are specialists in the most extreme forms of chemosynthesis, holding clues to what the earliest life on Earth may have looked like. For most of history, this vast microbial world was completely hidden from us, as more than 99% of these organisms cannot be grown in a laboratory setting. But with the advent of modern genetic sequencing, we are finally beginning to pull back the curtain. Scientists can now simply take a sample of deep-sea water or mud and sequence all of the DNA contained within it, a field known as metagenomics. This approach is revealing a biological dark matter of staggering proportions. It is uncovering the genetic blueprints of thousands upon thousands of new species, many of which are so different from anything we have ever known that they do not fit anywhere on the existing tree of life. We are discovering entirely new phyla, the most fundamental branches in the classification of life, from a single scoop of mud. The deep ocean, it turns out, is the last great frontier for discovering the fundamental scope of life's diversity on our own planet. Each drop of water is a library of unknown evolution, holding profound secrets about the origins of life and the myriad ways it has learned to persist. In this invisible, vibrant engine of viruses and microbes, life operates on the timescale of minutes and hours, a frantic and powerful contrast to the slow, ancient, and majestic life we will encounter next. In the invisible, teeming world of marine microbes and viruses, the drama of life and death unfolds on a timescale of minutes and hours, a frantic, high-speed engine of consumption and renewal that powers the entire abyss from the bottom up. But now, we must adjust our perspective entirely, slowing our sense of time down to a near standstill, to contemplate the other extreme of life in the deep. We turn our attention from the ephemeral to the eternal, from the creatures whose lives are a fleeting spark, to those whose existence is a long, slow, smouldering ember. In the cold, dark, and food-poor environment of the deep sea, the ultimate survival strategy for many larger animals is to embrace the slow pace of their world, to evolve an existence of supreme energy conservation, with metabolic rates that are barely a flicker of those found in the warm, sunlit world. This is not a life of diminished capacity, but one of perfect attunement, a life lived in harmony with the slow, sparse, and patient rhythm of the abyss. The undisputed living embodiment of this slow-motion existence is the Greenland shark, Somniosus microcephalus, or the sleepy-headed shark. This large and enigmatic creature patrols the frigid, deep waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans with a placid and languid grace. Its movement so slow that its cruising speed is often less than 1 mile per hour. For centuries, its life was a complete mystery, but recent scientific discoveries have revealed a truth that is almost beyond belief. By using radiocarbon dating on the proteins that form the lenses of the shark's eyes, which are laid down layer by layer throughout its life, researchers have determined that the Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate animal on our planet. They live for a minimum of 270 years, and are very likely to live for 400 years, with some estimates suggesting they can reach an age of more than 500 years. This is a timescale that is difficult for the human mind to grasp. A Greenland shark swimming in the deep dark water today could have been born during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. Its entire life cycle is drawn out across the centuries. It grows at a rate of only about 1 centimetre per year, and it does not even reach sexual maturity and begin to reproduce until it is approximately 150 years old. This incredible longevity is not limited to the vertebrates of the deep. There are creatures in the abyss that make the ancient Greenland shark seem young by comparison. These are the deep-sea corals, particularly the group known as black corals of the genus Leopathes. Unlike their famous tropical cousins, these corals have no need for sunlight. They are not builders of bright, shallow reefs, but are instead slow, patient architects of the dark, building intricate, tree-like skeletons in the eternal night. They are filter feeders, extending their tiny polyps into the gentle currents to capture the passing flakes of marine snow. Their growth is agonizingly slow, their skeletons expanding by just a few micrometers each year, a rate so gradual that it is almost imperceptible. By dating the layers of their proteinaceous skeletons, scientists have discovered colonies of black coral growing on seamounts near Hawaii that are more than 4,250 years old. These are not just individuals, but living, colonial organisms that have been continuously growing and thriving since the time of ancient Mesopotamia, before the Great Pyramids of Giza were even built. They are, without question, among the very oldest living things on our planet, silent, branching witnesses to the entirety of recorded human history. There is another kind of ancientness to be found in the deep sea, not just the great age of an individual, but the profound age of an entire evolutionary lineage. This is the story of the coelacanth, the most famous living fossil in the world. For decades, the coelacanth was known to science only through its fossilized remains. It was a strange-looking fish with fleshy, lobe-like fins, and it was believed to have gone extinct along with the dinosaurs some 66 million years ago. Then, in 1938, in a discovery that shocked the scientific world, a living coelacanth was caught by a fisherman off the coast of South Africa. This creature, which had been hiding in the deep, cool waters of submarine canyons, was a living, breathing link to a distant evolutionary past. Its unique, limb-like fins are the evolutionary precursors to the legs, arms, and wings of all land-dwelling vertebrates, including ourselves. To look upon a coelacanth is to see a living snapshot of a crucial transition in the history of life, a form that has remained largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. The deep sea, with its incredible stability and slow pace, acts as a planetary refuge, a place where the pressures of evolution are relaxed, preserving not only incredibly ancient individuals, but also incredibly ancient forms of life, living echoes of a time long since past. The serene, ancient presence of a 500-year-old Greenland shark or a 4,000-year-old black coral instills in us a sense of deep time, a feeling for the slow, ponderous, and almost imperceptible rhythms that govern the abyss. This feeling of a vast and hidden motion is not just a poetic metaphor, it is a physical reality. For the deep ocean itself, in its immense, dark interior, is in constant, slow-motion movement, shaped by colossal waves that have no equivalent on the surface. We are accustomed to thinking of waves as a surface phenomenon, the boundary where the restless energy of the wind is transferred to the water. But waves can and do form deep within the ocean, travelling not along the interface between water and air, but along the hidden boundaries that separate layers of water with different densities. The most significant of these boundaries, often found several hundred meters below the surface, is a transitional layer known as the pycnocline, where the warmer, lighter waters of the upper ocean give way to the much colder, denser waters of the deep. This invisible interface, stretching across entire ocean basins, acts like a second, submerged surface, and it is along this boundary that the largest waves on our planet are born. These are the internal waves, and their scale is almost impossible to comprehend. While the largest wind-driven waves on the surface might, in the most extreme storms, reach a height of 30 meters, or 100 feet, a typical internal wave can have a height of 200 or 300 meters. The largest ever recorded, in the Luzon Strait between Taiwan and the Philippines, reached a staggering height of 500 meters, taller than the Empire State Building. These are, by a wide margin, the most massive waves on Earth, yet they are completely invisible to us on the surface. Their immense size is matched by an equally extreme slowness. Unlike a surface wave that might pass by in a matter of seconds, a great internal wave moves with a majestic, ponderous grace. It can take many hours, or even the better part of a day, for a single, colossal crest to pass a stationary point. Its passage through the deep is not a violent crash, but a slow, silent, and powerful swelling, an invisible tide that can lift and lower the entire mid-water column by hundreds of meters as it rolls, unseen, through the darkness. The primary engine that generates these colossal, slow-moving waves is the same force that governs our daily tides, the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun. As the Earth rotates, the great tidal bulge of the ocean is pulled across the planet, causing the entire water column, from the surface to the seafloor, to flow back and forth. For the most part, this deep tidal flow is slow and gentle. But when this massive movement of water encounters a significant underwater obstacle, such as a towering mid-ocean ridge, a large seamount, or the steep slope of a continental shelf, the deep, dense water is forced to flow up and over the obstruction. This powerful disturbance of the stratified layers of the ocean creates a ripple, a perturbation along the pycnocline. This initial ripple, once formed, then propagates away from its source, traveling across the ocean basin as a vast and silent internal wave, carrying the energy of the tides with it for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. It is a process that happens every day, in all the world's oceans, a constant and rhythmic conversion of tidal energy into these slow, majestic, and hidden waves. Though invisible and slow, these waves are a profoundly important force in the ocean. As they travel and eventually break against distant seamounts or continental margins, they create intense turbulence and mixing, far more than occurs in the open ocean. This mixing is vital. It churns up nutrient-rich water from the depths, helps to circulate heat, and plays a crucial role in driving the large-scale ocean currents that regulate our planet's climate. But beyond their physical importance, these great, silent waves offer a powerful and soothing metaphor for our own inner worlds. They are a physical manifestation of the deep, unseen currents of thought, emotion, and memory that exist far below the surface of our conscious awareness. Just as the surface of the sea can be calm while a colossal wave rolls through the depths, so too can our own outer demeanor be still while powerful. Slow-moving forces shape our inner landscape. To contemplate these waves is to acknowledge the vast, hidden depths within ourselves, to honor the slow and powerful rhythms that move beneath the surface of our daily lives, a gentle invitation to find peace in the profound and silent mysteries of our own inner ocean. The image of a vast, silent, internal wave rolling through the abyss is a powerful reminder of the hidden, slow-moving forces that shape our world. It resonates with the feeling of our own inner ocean, the deep and often unseen currents of emotion and memory that move within us. This connection is more than just a metaphor. It is a profound and literal truth, written in the very chemistry of our bodies. There is a remarkable and deeply meaningful similarity between the composition of the ocean and the composition of our own blood. The salty fluid that circulates within our veins, our blood plasma, has a concentration of salt and a ratio of key ions like sodium, potassium, and calcium that is strikingly similar to that of seawater. The evolutionary explanation for this is as beautiful as it is simple. The very first forms of complex, Multicellular life on our planet evolved in the ancient oceans. Their delicate cells bathed directly in the primordial sea. As these organisms evolved and developed closed circulatory systems, they essentially did something miraculous. They enclosed a small piece of that ancient ocean within themselves, creating an internal sea to carry with them wherever they went. Our blood, in a very real sense, is a living echo of the ocean, where our most distant ancestors first came into being. It is a personal, portable ocean, a constant, flowing reminder that we carry the memory of our origin within every cell of our bodies. From this intimate connection with the ocean within, we can expand our perspective outwards to see how the deep sea connects us not just to our own biological past, but to the vast cosmos without. The exploration of the deep ocean is, in many ways, a perfect parallel to the exploration of outer space. Both are profoundly hostile and alien frontiers, realms of extreme pressure, crushing and absolute in the sea, a perfect vacuum in space, and equally extreme temperatures. To visit either world, humans must be sealed within sophisticated, life-supporting craft, whether it be a deep-sea submersible or a space capsule. Both journeys are descents into a vast and enveloping darkness, punctuated by the small, precious circles of light from our own technology. For this reason, oceanographers often refer to the deep sea as inner space, a universe of unknown wonders and challenges that exists right here on our own planet. To explore the mid-Atlantic ridge is as technologically demanding and scientifically rewarding as exploring the mountains of the moon. To descend into the Mariana Trench is a journey into a world more alien and less understood than the surface of Mars. The deep ocean is the final, vast, and unconquered frontier of our own world, an inner cosmos that mirrors the mysteries of the one we see in the night sky. This profound connection between inner and outer space has become even more significant in recent years, as the deep sea has transformed into our primary model for the search for life elsewhere in the solar system. The focus of astrobiology, the science of searching for extraterrestrial life, has increasingly shifted towards the ocean worlds that we now know exist beyond Earth. Moons like Jupiter's Europa and Saturn's Enceladus are now considered the most promising targets in our solar system. Though their surfaces are covered by thick shells of solid ice, a wealth of data suggests that both moons harbour immense, globe-spanning oceans of liquid water beneath. These hidden oceans are kept from freezing by the immense tidal forces of their parent planets, which knead and warm their interiors, likely producing the same kind of geothermal activity and hydrothermal vents that we find on our own ocean floor. Our discovery of thriving, chemosynthetic ecosystems on Earth, living in total darkness and powered by the planet's internal heat, completely revolutionized our thinking. It provides a powerful and plausible blueprint for how life could exist in these distant, sunless oceans. The deep sea has become our training ground, our analogue, for understanding the kind of life we might one day find swimming in the dark, silent waters of Europa, a life whose ultimate origins might be remarkably similar to our own. The ocean, it seems, is the great connecting medium, the alpha and the omega of life as we know it, the place where it began for us, and the place we now look to for signs of it beginning elsewhere. The ocean is the great medium of connection, a liquid memory that links the chemistry of our own blood to the vast, cosmic search for life. It is the stage upon which the story of life on Earth has unfolded, and it is a world we have always perceived through sight, through the shimmering blue of its surface and the imagined darkness of its depths. But to truly understand the ocean, we must close our eyes and learn to listen. For the deep sea is not, as was once famously believed, a silent world. It is a realm of profound and constant sound, a vibrant acoustic landscape where the stories of geology, biology, and weather are told in a language of vibration. The myth of the silent deep was born from our own limitations, from our air-adapted ears being deaf to the rich symphony that constantly plays out beneath the waves. But with the invention of the hydrophone, the underwater microphone, we have finally been granted access to this hidden sonic world, and what we have heard has changed our perception of the ocean forever. It is not a place of emptiness and quiet, but a world that is alive with a constant and varied chorus. The natural soundscape of the deep ocean is a rich tapestry woven from three distinct sources. First, there are the sounds of life itself. We have already heard the haunting, basin-spanning songs of the great baleen whales, but the biological chorus is far richer than that. There are the rapid, powerful clicks of sperm whales and dolphins, using their sophisticated biological sonar, or echolocation, to navigate and hunt in the darkness, their calls painting a detailed acoustic picture of their unseen world. There are the grunts, moans, and thumps of countless species of fish, using their swim bladders like drums to communicate during courtship or territorial disputes. In some parts of the ocean, the collective, ceaseless crackling of snapping shrimp creates a constant, sizzling background noise that sounds like frying bacon. Together, these voices create a living symphony. Then, there are the powerful, low-frequency sounds of the planet itself. The deep rumbling of undersea earthquakes, the sharp, explosive crack of a volcanic eruption at a mid-ocean ridge, the slow, grinding groan of tectonic plates shifting against one another. These are the deep bass notes of the Earth's geology. Finally, there are the sounds of the weather on the world far above. The furious energy of a great storm at sea does not stop at the surface. The sound of the wind, the crashing waves, and the steady drumming of rain can penetrate for hundreds of meters, becoming a distant, muffled roar that fills the twilight zone with the voice of the sky. And beneath it all, if you listen with the most sensitive instruments, you can hear a steady, ultra-low frequency vibration, the ever-present hum of the Earth itself, a planetary resonance that is the quiet, fundamental heartbeat of our world. Into this rich, natural symphony, a new and discordant sound has been introduced in the last century. The sound of humanity. Because sound travels so far and so efficiently in water, the noise from our industrial activities has become a pervasive and inescapable presence in even the most remote corners of the deep ocean. The most dominant of these sounds is the relentless, low-frequency drone from the propellers and engines of the global shipping fleet. The thousands of massive container ships, tankers, and other vessels that crisscross our oceans every day have collectively raised the ambient noise level of the entire marine environment, creating a constant, globe-spanning acoustic smog. Added to this are the intense, high-energy pings of military and commercial sonar systems, which can be as loud as a rocket launch, and the regular, explosive blasts from seismic air guns used in oil and gas exploration, which fire off every 10 to 15 seconds, for days or weeks on end. These sounds, alien to the natural world, are fundamentally changing the acoustic character of the ocean, transforming a world that was once defined by the meaningful sounds of nature into one that is increasingly dominated by the monotonous and overwhelming noise of human industry. For the creatures of the deep, who have spent hundreds of millions of years evolving to rely on sound as their primary sense for navigating, communicating, finding food, and avoiding predators, this rising tide of noise is a profound and existential threat. The constant drone of shipping can mask the quiet calls of whales, shrinking their acoustic world and making it harder for them to find mates or for mothers to communicate with their calves. The intense blasts of sonar and seismic surveys can cause physical injury, damaging their hearing, and can trigger profound behavioral changes, causing them to panic and flee from critical feeding or breeding habitats, sometimes leading to mass stranding events. We are, in effect, creating an acoustic blindness, forcing the most magnificent communicators of the sea to try and whisper to each other in the middle of a perpetual rock concert. It is a subtle and invisible form of pollution, one that leaves no visible stain or scar, but it is fundamentally altering the nature of the largest living space on our planet. The great, deep ocean, which was once the last sanctuary of natural sound and true quiet on Earth, is now being filled with the ceaseless hum of our own activity, a poignant reminder of the immense and often unseen weight of our presence on the fragile, hidden worlds below. The relentless, invisible hum of our own making, which now permeates the once quiet acoustic world of the deep, is a powerful symbol of our reach, an unseen footprint left upon the largest and most remote habitat on Earth. But our influence is no longer just a vibration in the water. We are now beginning to find our most tangible, physical traces in the last, most inaccessible sanctuary on the planet, a quiet and sorrowful testament to the fact that no part of our world is separate from any other. The journey of our impact follows the same slow, patient path as the marine snow, a final, gentle descent into the abyss. In the deepest place on Earth, the Challenger, deep in the Mariana Trench, nearly 11,000 meters beneath the surface, a place of unimaginable pressure and eternal darkness, we have found our litter. A remotely operated vehicle, exploring this most alien of landscapes, filmed a thin, translucent plastic bag, half buried in the pale, soft ooze, a ghostly and mundane artifact from a world 7 miles above. The tiny, shrimp-like amphipods that live in these trenches, the deepest living animals known to science, have been found with the fibers of microplastics in their guts, tiny fragments of our textiles and packaging that have become an inextricable part of their diet. Every time we wash a fleece jacket, or a plastic bottle breaks down in the sun, it creates a shower of microscopic particles that enter the great oceanic circulation, eventually to be carried down into the abyss, where they will be buried in the sediment and become a permanent, indelible part of the future geological record of our planet. Alongside this slow rain of our accidental waste, there is now a growing conversation about a much more deliberate and industrial touch. The abyssal plains, which we have come to see as silent, ancient libraries, are also home to an extraordinary mineral wealth. For millions of years, in a process of chemical accretion that is still not fully understood, valuable metals dissolved in the seawater have slowly precipitated around tiny nuclei, a shark's tooth, a grain of sand, a fishbone on the seafloor. This process has formed trillions of so-called polymetallic nodules, dark, potato-sized concretions that are rich in manganese, nickel, cobalt, and copper. These are the very metals that are in high demand for the batteries that power our electric cars and the electronics that connect our modern world. And so, we now stand at the precipice of a new industrial frontier. Deep-sea mining. The prospect involves sending vast, robotic harvesting machines to the seafloor to collect these nodules, scraping them from the surface of the ooze. The potential ecological impact of such an undertaking is difficult to predict, but deeply concerning. It would involve the direct destruction of a fragile, slow-growing ecosystem that we are only just beginning to understand. The mining process would kick up immense, dense plumes of sediment that could drift for many kilometers, burying the delicate, filter-feeding communities of ancient glass sponges and deep-sea corals, suffocating life far beyond the immediate mining sites. It is a world that operates on a timescale of millennia, and once disturbed, it may not recover for millions of years more, if it ever could. There is another, even more pervasive change that is slowly altering the very chemistry of the entire ocean, from its sunlit surface to its deepest trenches. The ocean, in its immense capacity to absorb and buffer, has taken in approximately 1/3 of all the excess carbon dioxide that human activity has released into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. This quiet, planetary-scale service has slowed the rate of climate change on land, but it has come at a significant cost to the ocean itself. When carbon dioxide dissolves in seawater, it forms carbonic acid, a weak acid that is slowly but surely lowering the overall pH of the oceans, a process known as ocean acidification. This gradual shift in chemistry is making it more difficult for marine organisms to build and maintain their shells and skeletons from the mineral calcium carbonate. This affects a vast spectrum of life, from the microscopic, shell-armoured coccolithophores that form the very base of the marine food web, to the great coral reefs, to countless species of clams, snails, and crustaceans. In the deep ocean, this has a particularly profound consequence. As the water becomes more acidic, the carbonate compensation depth, that invisible snow line below which chalky shells dissolve, will become progressively shallower. This means that vast areas of the seafloor that are currently preserving a calcareous record of our planet's history will become corrosive, and the gentle rain of chalky shells will dissolve before ever reaching the bottom, slowly erasing the ocean's own memory of itself. In all these ways, the deep ocean has become the planet's ultimate and most patient sink. It is quietly absorbing our physical waste, our chemical emissions, and perhaps most significantly, our heat. More than 90% of the excess heat trapped in the Earth's system by greenhouse gases has been absorbed by the ocean, with much of it slowly making its way down into the deep. This immense thermal buffering is protecting us on the surface from the full and immediate consequences of a warming world, but it is a silent and unseen debt that is being accumulated in the abyss. The slow warming of the deep is a change whose full effects on circulation, chemistry, and life will not be understood for centuries to come. Our touch, which was once confined to the continents and the surface of the sea, now reaches down into the very deepest, darkest, and most remote corners of our world. It is not an aggressive or a violent touch, but a slow, creeping, and pervasive one, the gentle but inexorable weight of our collective presence, felt even in the most profound and silent of depths. With the quiet and contemplative weight of our human touch now felt in the deepest of waters, we can begin our final, gentle journey upwards. Let us leave the immense pressure and the profound darkness behind, and start our slow ascent back towards the familiar world of air and light. As we rise, we carry with us the memory of the world we have just visited, a quiet echo of the wonders that lie beneath the shimmering blue veil of the surface. We have travelled through a universe of layers, descending first through the vibrant, sun-drenched canopy of the photic zone, the great engine of life. We drifted through the perpetual twilight of the mesopelagic, a world nourished by a gentle, unending snow of life from above, and illuminated by the first tentative sparks of living light. We then entered the true abyss, the midnight world of absolute darkness, a realm not of emptiness, but of a silent, luminous conversation, a fireworks display of bioluminescence. We felt the crushing, uniform embrace of a pressure that can shape life into new and resilient forms, and we marveled at the serene, slow-moving giants that are born from the deep sea's unhurried sense of time. We witnessed the impossible oases of life around the fiery breath of hydrothermal vents, and the slow, patient cities of life, built upon the bones of a fallen whale, or within the glass cathedrals of an ancient sponge garden. It has been a journey not just through space, but through different scales of time, and through the very definition of what it means to be alive. As we continue our ascent, returning towards the light, the most profound truth we carry with us is not what we have seen, but what remains unseen. For all of our exploration and all of our technology, the deep ocean remains the last great wilderness on our planet, a realm of profound and humbling mystery. It is a staggering fact that more than 80% of our own planet's oceans have never been mapped, explored, or even seen by human eyes. We currently have more detailed and high-resolution maps of the surface of Mars and our own moon than we do of the seafloor of our home world. More than 95% of the ocean's volume remains a complete mystery to us. This is not a failure of our curiosity, but rather a beautiful and awe-inspiring gift. The knowledge that such a vast and unknown world still exists, teeming with undiscovered species, unknown geological processes, and unimagined forms of life, is a powerful antidote to a world that can sometimes feel too small and too thoroughly known. The unknown is not an empty space to be feared, but a space filled with infinite possibility. It is a quiet invitation to humility and to wonder, a reminder that we live on a planet that still holds its deepest secrets close. To contemplate this vast, mysterious world is to experience one of the most powerful and transformative of human emotions, the feeling of awe. Awe is the sensation we feel when we are in the presence of something immense, powerful, and not fully contained by our everyday understanding of the world. It is the feeling of looking up at a star-filled night sky, of standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon, or of trying to comprehend the silent, living world that exists miles beneath the waves. Modern psychology has shown that experiencing awe is profoundly beneficial for our well-being. It has the power to quiet the incessant chatter of our own thoughts, to reduce stress, and to foster a deep and abiding sense of connection, a feeling that we are a small but meaningful part of something much, much larger than ourselves. Contemplating the deep ocean, even from the safety and comfort of your bed, is a gentle and peaceful way to cultivate this feeling. It is an invitation to let go of the small worries of the day and to find a quiet, restorative peace in the vast and silent majesty of our living planet. And so, as we finally break the surface, returning to the gentle air and the soft light, our journey comes to a peaceful close. In many ways, The voyage we have taken into the deep ocean is a mirror for the journey you are now beginning, the journey into sleep. To fall asleep is to let go of the bright, busy, conscious world of the surface, and to allow yourself a gentle, trusting descent into the deep, quiet, and mysterious realms of your own inner world. It is a journey into the subconscious, a place of restoration, of dreams, and of profound and necessary quiet. May your own descent tonight be a peaceful one, and may you find in your own inner depths a calm and restorative darkness. Thank you for joining me on this gentle journey into the heart of the ocean. I hope it has brought you a measure of peace and wonder. If you feel so moved, I would love to hear your own thoughts or feelings about the deep sea in the comments below. Your presence and your stories are what make this community so special. And for more soothing explorations of our world, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It helps more than you know. For now, all that is left is to let go. To let your breathing be slow and deep, and to let the gentle currents of sleep carry you away. Good night.